project for the museum CSS layout. This is what the code looks like for an inline style. So here this paragraph style is set to specific font size and color, and then you would input your text here. The embedded style, notice it has the text /CSS code here, and then you've got the font family and the font size, and this is going to be applied to the H1, so that heading for that tag selector. So anytime you've selected an H1 style, it's going to attribute this embedded style to it. The external styles which we'll be using, you can see that link href tag, and that's telling us this is the CSS style sheet that we've attached here to the HTML page. These are the advantages of using the external CSS style sheet. You can apply these rules to multiple pages. It separates the content from the presentation, and you can edit these styles to change the page appearance. So let's look at here. This is our HTML page name design. Then you've got your source code, and then next to the source code is the CSS style sheet. So in our CSS designer panel, if you click on the plus or add button, that's going to add your this style sheet, which is called museum styles in this case, .css. And then if you click on that CSS sheet, it will show you the code for the styles that you're giving to that style sheet that you're going to apply because you've attached it to your HTML page. Then here are the selectors that are included here on the style sheet. So you see here you've got this page content ID selector. Then you can see that it matches exactly the selector name here in the panel. You have a footer selector here, your nav selector, and it's here in your selector panel. When you want to create a CSS file, you can go to New Document and just select CSS instead of HTML here. You can also go directly to your CSS designer panel and just click on Add to create a new CSS file. Then you attach the link to an HTML file by selecting Attach Existing CSS File. And then you can type your name in here to attach the existing file. You want to select Import. And then you can look at your source code here. So here's the link href tag, and there's the name of your CSS style sheet. And then you can also see it under the sources now. You can always view your CSS code here when you select your style sheet up here next to source code. And again, the asterisk will tell you that your style or file has been modified since it was last saved. So that's just kind of a reminder that you need to save. And when you add the CSS style sheet, you will now need to save this in addition to your HTML page. So if you just go to File, Save All, it will save both of those files at the same time. So don't forget to do that if you want to save your style sheet file as well as your HTML page. Now we want to create some CSS rules to our style sheet. So you want to add selectors in your CSS designer panel. So that's what we're going to be doing in Project 4 tutorial. You're going to create a new selector item by clicking on the Add Selector button under Selectors. And of course, you can click on the minus sign to remove a selector. And then you can type in the name of your selector. So remember here that your tags, if there's nothing in the no symbol in the front, that's just a regular tag, HTML tag. Then you've got the hashtag symbol in front of it. That is the ID selector. And then if it has a period in front, that's a class selector. Then once you've got your selectors, you want to use your Properties panel to assign the properties to your selector. So if you've got this Page Content ID selector highlighted, then you can go to the Properties section in this CSS Designer panel, and you can select under Layout, a width, you can select the margin and padding. You can click on text to format the text, border, gradient, and all your other properties here. If you click on Show Set, it will only show you the properties that have been attributed to that particular selector. If you uncheck Show Set, it will show you all the properties that you have at your disposal. So again, I went over this before, but the CSS box, so this is their content. So here you can see you've got different settings for the margin and the padding. So let's take a closer look at that, and you've got the code here too. So this is your div, your container. It's got a green border here, pixel border with this web color attributed to it. And then we've got the padding. So the padding here, you can set a different padding to the right side and to the left side and to the top and bottom. So we have a right padding of 100 pixels, which is much larger than the padding on the left side. Then we can look at the margin outside of our container. So you've got a 100 pixel left margin, and that's bigger than right side. So look at your code. You've got 20 pixel margin, but then your left margin is increased to 100 pixels. So you've got some flexibility here of how you want to set your margins and padding. Just keep in mind, if you increase the border size, that's going to increase the size of the entire container here. When you insert elements, there's different ways that you can do that, and we'll explore all these ways in the tutorial. First, we're going to look at the HTML insert panel. So here, you just click on Insert, and then you want to select HTML, and you can click on any of these elements. So if you want to insert a footer, you can just click on the footer to insert that, and you want to insert it at the insertion point or at wherever you got your cursor. You're in Design View. When you switch to Live View, you can use that Insert panel by actually dragging the element onto your page. And it's going to drag it wherever you see the green line is where it's going to insert it. So you have to be in Live View to do that. Another way is you can use the DOM panel, the Direct Object Manager. And here, when you click on that, you can see all your tags and if they're nested inside each other, you can see the order and the structure there. You can click on the Add button, select where you want to insert it. So if you want to select this section, you've got a section div here that's been assigned this ID selector called main copy, and this section is actually nested inside another div, and that div is assigned the ID selector of page content. So you've got really a div inside a div here, and you can change the order of that by moving it. You can drag it to a different section here within the DOM. Let's say you add this header element, and then you're going to have placeholder text in here. If you delete that placeholder text, then what's going to happen is the new element, when the text is removed, the element's going to collapse to the smallest possible height. And even if you define a specific height, the elements will expand to accommodate whatever content you place inside that element or that container. We can take a look at this header, the code. So we've got the header is inside the body tag, and then the text here is the content, which is just the placeholder text right here. At the DOM panel, where you can look at the structure and the hierarchy of where everything is. Elements appear in the same order as they are viewed in the document window and also the code pane. And the nested elements will appear indented, as they are here, from the parent elements. You can add new elements by defining the ID or class attributes within the DOM panel. So you click on the Add, and then you kind of scroll down. It will give you a kind of a pop-up menu here so you can select the ID or class. So these divs are nested inside each other. So you have this new nav element that's attached to the left, and they will automatically be attached to the left edge of the container. And you can change that by going to the float element, and you can float it to the right if you want. We'll do that in the tutorial. So you can see these two sections are both nested in the page content div. You'll be using templates, so if you go to File, Save as Template, it will automatically save it with this DWT extension, and then Dreamweaver will automatically create a templates folder for you, and that template will be inside that folder. And you want to update your links, and your template folder will be nested inside your local root folder. Do not move your templates out of the folder, and don't move the template folder out of your root folder. So that's very important that you don't move that around, or else that's going to create some errors in your file. When you create a template, you will want to assign some editable regions. If you don't, then all the elements will be locked down and non-editable. So you can assign which elements can be edited and which you want to stay locked. When you go to the Insert panel, you want to select Templates and then click on the Editable region, and then you can select which regions you want to be editable or changeable. You can define a name for the region, and then you can add to the template at the location where your cursor is. Remember, you don't have to use Save As to save the template, but you can go directly to just File Save. The paths in the template, if you go to your Site Setup dialog box, go to the Advanced Settings and select Template, and you want to make sure that this Don't Rewrite Relative Document Paths is selected so that it will prevent any rewriting of the document, so that relative paths can be updated in your template files. If you go to Control right click on your template files in the Assets panel, so here's the Assets panel, and create a new file from template, or you can go to File, New, and select Page from Template. Then you can assign that template to an HTML page. So here you go to Modify Templates, Apply Template to Page, and then you can select your template within your site. And when you do that, when you're creating a path to your template, just keep in mind that you're going to have to go up from the template folder. Since your template is inside the template folder, remember it will have the path of .. in front of it. So for example, if you have a logo JPEG image inside an images folder that's inside the templates folder, your path will be .. images / logo.jpg. So just keep that in mind that you're moving up a folder. If you want to modify a template, the non-editable regions are automatically updated to match the changes in your template. So to edit your template, you can double-click in the Files panel in your template folder to open the file, make the changes, and then just go to File, Save. You want to update your files. Looking more at tag selectors, you can format specific HTML tags such as your paragraph, body tags, your heading tags. We can look at the nested structure. So in your body tag here, we have the font size is set to 14 pixels. So everything inside this body tag is going to have that font size. Well, if you have an A tag selector, it will affect all the linked text on the page. If you want links in your nav bar to appear differently, you can use a compound selector using a specific div tag for that specific element. Pseudo class selectors are used for rollover effects, and there are 5 different types of pseudo class selectors with the A tag. So we have the A link, which means that the hyperlink has not yet been visited. Then we've got the A visited selector, which means that the hyperlink has been visited. The A hover selector, which is when you mouse over an element by hovering over it, hovering over the link. And then the A focus is when, for example, you're using the tab to tab through to navigate through your links on a page. The active selector is the active hyperlink. So you want to type the div name in front of the pseudo class name, and you can define different hover behaviors for links in your main page, and that's differentiated from your nav bar.